Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. I am so excited that you are listening today. Welcome to 2024. This is exciting. I'm happy to be here. I took a couple of weeks off from recording. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but then the holidays came and it just didn't feel right to be producing, to be honest. And so I just kind of took a little break. And if you're new here, this is a place where I talk about biohacking and health and a lot of women's health and basically how to optimize our lives. There's so many things that can go into that in terms of nutrition and sleep and diet and exercise and all sorts of things. And so this podcast really covers a wide range of topics. However, it is from a perspective of a lot of the time women's health and how we can optimize women specifically, and also just from a perspective of more casual than some of the other health podcasts that are out there. And today's episode is all about quantum healing. This was a very interesting episode. I actually recorded it this week, so it's very fresh. Fast turnaround, and I'm excited for everyone to listen to this. So Philipp was actually on my show a couple of years ago when we were first starting out, and it was awesome to bring him back and talk about Leela Quantum Tech and talk about how far the company has come. So this one is a little spicy of an episode. I think there's some topics in here that I don't see a lot of people talking about. And so I know this will be one of those episodes that gets downloaded more and probably also more in the coming months and years because of the topics in it. So for example, we talk about EMF blocking underwear for women. We talk about electric vehicles and the EMF and radiation that comes from them and what we can do about it. We talk about planes and radiation from them as well. And just this idea of energy and how do we factor that in when we are thinking about our health and our wellness. And there's a lot that we can do with it. And Leela, I would argue, is one of the leading companies in this space. I've seen them grow so much in the last few years. They are at a bunch of the conferences now. They are working with a really big people in the space. And I'm excited to see what they're doing for this year. And one of the things that we do talk about is, like I previously mentioned, the EMF blocking underwear. And this is so interesting because personally, I looked at creating this myself. And I kind of talk about this on the episode where I was going to create a line of underwear for women called EMFIES. So EMFIES. And I was so excited about doing this, and I talk about it on this episode of why I stopped that avenue. But potentially we might be starting that up again, working with Leela, like in terms of a partnership for myself and them, because the roadblocks that I hit when creating that is something that they are able to, seems like they are able to overcome. And the roadblocks that they have right now are things that I overcame when I was doing my research and development of the product. So there could be some synergy here. And if you're listening to this episode, I'm curious if I listen back 6 months from now of what happens with that, because you never know with these things. You really never know. And it's so funny because, when you're an entrepreneur, you have these ideas and you develop these things and then you put them on the shelf for 2 years and then someone comes back and they're like, oh, wait, let's talk about that. Maybe it resurfaces. So I just, it's a beautiful thing when it comes to entrepreneurship. And it's a beautiful thing when you start to know people in the space that you're in and you can connect people and people can connect you, and you are starting to actually build a name for yourself. And there's like a bit of a reputation going on there. So anyway, that's all to say, big things coming for this year. That is a very big understatement. I have some really big things coming up. So I'm very excited about that. And I hope your 2024 is kicking off to a good start. I'm curious if you have goals that you have set. What are they? Are they health focused or personal focused or both? I have not done my goals yet. I think I'll do them this weekend. I'm flying to Ontario to Toronto for a week. And so I'm going to spend the time that I have stuck on the plane, likely journaling part of it and writing out my goals on my phone or in an actual journal, and just kind of reflecting on where I want the next 6 months to go and then the next year to go. So some tips that I just want to throw out there if you are doing goals is break it down. I think if you look at goals from a perspective of what can I accomplish in the next 12 months, it feels like a very long time. And I think it's smart to break it down into 6 months or even quarters, which is what I do. And then I break it down into 1 month. And I also think, breaking it down into smaller things and then breaking it down into tasks is a smart idea. But then what I also agree with is if your goal, for example, is to make, let's talk finances. Like if your goal is to make, let's say 250,000 next year or 100,000, whatever it is. And then you go, okay, so that means every month I need to make this amount, 20,000, whatever it is. Like you take the number, you divide it by 12, and then you're like, okay, this is what I need to hit every month. A lot of the time that actually doesn't make sense. And depending on where you're at right now, that jump is very large. So a smarter way to do goals is to do it on a level up type of mind frame of like a growth scale type of mind frame. So maybe your goal for January is 8,000 a month. And then for February, it's 10,000. And then it's 12 or 15. And you break it down from 250 or 100, whatever your number is, into more of a scalable approach versus I'm going to go from A to B and I have to hit that every month. And, oh, I didn't hit it this month, so now I'm failing, right? Like, let's break it down in a way that is more realistic. At the end of the day, like it has to be realistic. What can you actually accomplish in January? You have the whole month, you have 31 days, and let's be smarter about this type of goals. So that's kind of what I do. I just try to be more honest with myself. I used to set so many goals and now I have simplified so much. Maybe there's one personal health and career goal. So there's 3 in total. And then those are broken down so much into quarters, months, and then actionable steps, because that is actually how you achieve your goals. Another tip I will say is I like to have them where I can see them. So I think there's something to be said about writing it on your phone or in a journal. However, for me, I also write everything on sticky notes and I attach it to my computer. So I have a desktop. So I have sticky notes on the bottom. There's like 4 different sticky notes or 3, depending on how many goals. And so every single day when I'm staring at my computer, if I look down, my goal is written right there, like every single day. So I'm like, oh yeah, like that is actually what I'm working towards. Oh, I don't want to work today. Okay, but like, let me review my goals. And oh, they're right in front of me. I have this one photo that's on a sticky note. I actually don't think it's a sticky note. I think it's a piece of paper. Yeah. I have this, I think I've talked about this on my podcast a long time ago, but I have this one little image that I drew. Okay. And it's been taped to my desktop for probably, I don't know, 3 years, maybe something like that. And on it is a picture of a family. So me, my now husband, a kid, and our dog. We don't have the kid yet. And then there's a little sunshine. There's like a sun. And then there is the amount I'd like to earn per month. And then there was also the amount that I preferred to weigh, which is kind of interesting because I don't really think about that as much anymore. So obviously when I first did this, it was a little different. So if I were to redraw it, I would probably think of a symbol that would represent optimal health in a different way, maybe. And it's just interesting. And so I've actually written over that number, that original number of what I wanted to earn per month. I've written over it. And now I just have this picture on my desk of like, I want to have a family. I want to earn this much per month myself. I want to have this level of health. And those are my goals. Those are the overall things. And so I just encourage you to get creative with it. That's my little rant about goals for this year. And shout out to everybody who is on social media and replying to all of my Instagram stories. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who is signing up for my Baby Steps course waitlist. Yes, I'm excited about this. So I posted a video yesterday about it. If you sign up for the waitlist, you will get first access to the course at a discounted price and a bonus. I'm toying with the idea of the bonus being a one-on-one consultation with me so that we can dive deeper into your preconception and fertility health. That's a really big bonus, okay? Right now I'm seeing clients and I work with them, on a paid basis. So to be able to give a free hour of my time to every person on that waitlist is significant. So I really encourage you to join that waitlist. It's all about optimizing that time of your life. Preconception is so important. And this is exactly the cleanse and course that I went through. I recommend it for everybody and it's coming out soon. If your name is not on that waitlist, you do not get that bonus. You do not get it at a discounted rate. You do not get it early either. So there's no harm in signing up, to be honest. Like, why would you not? Or why would you not sign up your friends who are potentially struggling to conceive or wanting to optimize their health before they start to conceive? This is for you. This is for you, male, female, doesn't matter. This is for you. So stay tuned for that. And a shout out to Bioptimizers. I'm so happy that they are a sponsor of the show for 2024. One of my favorite companies. And we are working on a biohacking Brittany or biohacking bundle, we're going to call it, of products. And these are essentially my favorite products with them. That is coming out soon. But in the meantime, you can still get them. I love their magnesium. I take it every single day. It is a full spectrum magnesium, which means that it has all 7 types of magnesium in it. This really matters because, for example, I had a girlfriend over the other day and she was complaining about leg cramps and her doctor told her to take magnesium. And then I was talking to her about the different types of magnesium. And I said, like, you can take this one magnesium, but there's a potential that that is actually not the correct form that is going to help those leg cramps. So let me get you on a full spectrum magnesium that covers all of your bases and has the 7 different types so that we can help with your leg cramps and any other symptoms that you're dealing with. Things like irritability, sleep issues, stress. Magnesium is involved in millions of processes in the body. It's essential. And over 2/3 of the North American population is deficient in magnesium due to our food supply and our poor salt soil quality. So get some magnesium. I think Bioptimizers is the best on the market. You can use my discount code BiohackingBrittany. It will get you off the biggest discount possible. They also have great digestive enzymes, sleep aids, and probiotics. So I take all 3 of those or all 4 of those every single day. They are essential in my supplement stack, which is why I love to work with them. I think they're the best. And a shout out to Mimeo. Mimeo is a supplement that mimics a 36-hour fast in the body, which is incredible. So instead of fasting every single day, or if you are a woman and you are concerned about how this might impact your hormones or your cycle, you can take something like Mimeo and get the benefits of fasting on your body, which a lot of the benefits have to do with longevity and aging and detoxing even, and really just supporting our cellular health. So I love taking Mimeo. I take 2 in the morning with a glass of water. And they are one of my favorite companies that I found in 2023. So check out Mimeo. You can use my discount code biohackingbrittany. You get, I think it's 15 to 20% off, which is definitely worth it. They are going to blow up this year. That is my prediction with them. I think they are one of the newest companies that have really reframed how we look at longevity in supplements, and I'm excited for them. So enjoy this episode with Leela Quantum Tech. I will link, and I talk about this in the episode, I will link the products that I have from them in the show notes directly, just to make it really easy for you if you're like, hey, I want to order this for my house, my car, my family, whatever. I'll show you what I have and what I use every single day. We talk about it on the episode, but I'll just make it easy for you. Highly recommend you get a couple of their products and cover your basis when it comes to quantum energy. Highly, highly recommended. EMF radiation is a massive issue and it's only getting worse. So yes, we also dive into water as well, which is really interesting, but I really, really recommend it. And I'm going to make it easy for you. Enjoy this podcast episode. I will catch you next week for another one. I produce episodes every Tuesday and Friday. That will be continuing for this year. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, message me on Instagram. I always respond to everybody, and have a great week. Well, welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. This is a place where I talk about cutting edge health and wellness and innovation. And in today's episode, we are diving into the fascinating world of quantum energy healing with a visionary in the field. He's actually been on the podcast before, but if you don't know him, I am talking about Philipp Samor von Holtzendorff-Fehling, who is the founder and CEO of Leela Quantum Tech. Philipp's journey from the corporate world to pioneering quantum energy products aimed at optimizing health is nothing short of remarkable. So we're going to get all into his products. We're going to get into quantum energy. So Philipp, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Great. I definitely want to start with what we were just talking about before we hopped on the mic. You asked me about emphies, and I want to talk about this because I actually haven't thought about it in a while. But for those who are new, who are listening, about 2 years ago, I was researching and thinking about developing EMF-blocking underwear for women because I saw the lack of product in the field and I just really wanted something like that for myself. And I went down this whole journey and spoke to all of these experts and eventually decided that it actually didn't necessarily make sense for me to develop something like that. But it sounds like you might be doing something very similar.
Well, yes. So we already have quantum underwear for men, and that's actually, it's an underwear that has specific silver fabric, which is antibacterial, odor neutral, and it also blocks EMF, at least, over 99.9% of that. And then on top of that, we charge it with our technology. So you literally have a 360 degree protection and more, basically, which is scientifically validated. And we haven't created one for women, though, but we have been working on it since quite some time. We've been thinking about it for a long time. At the time when we spoke, actually, I was interested in your emphies, and I told you, if you develop something, we're happy to support it, maybe partner up with you, help charge it and all of that. Now that you apparently stopped those efforts, no one else is really doing that. We looked into this, and yeah, we're still in the process, but if everything goes well, I think, by Q2 at the very, very latest, we should have something for women. And it's not as easy as it is for men, frankly, and we may have similar issues that we're facing that you had, but happy to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I definitely want to try them once you have them come out. But a couple of things that I found when I was doing the research was that a lot of the EMF experts I spoke to talked about how EMF really works on a 360 degree basis around your body. And it's complicated because with women, the main organ that you want to protect is the ovaries, which are located inside of the body. Whereas with men, it's typically the testicles, which are hanging outside the body, and you can kind of create almost a like 360-degree shield around them. But with women, it's much more difficult. So when I was explaining the product to them, and I was explaining like, there'd be silver fabric that wraps around your front and your sides, and I guess like your back of where it would be located if you're looking from behind, they still said that probably wouldn't be enough protection because it can go and hit the ovaries from all sides of your body, from the top, from the bottom. And like, there wouldn't really be enough scientific evidence to prove that just that simple round fabric would actually make a difference in how much EMF the ovaries would be exposed to.
Yeah, well, that's actually a fair assessment, I would say. In general, if we're just looking at material, physical material, now we have the benefit of our technology so that we can charge any fabric, basically, but especially if it's something like silver, it holds a whole lot of quantum energy and transmits that. And what that does, it then harmonizes the destructive waveform patterns from, for example, EMF, right? Whether that's 4G, 5G, microwaves, doesn't really matter. And so you actually have some real blocking effect, even if it's a women's underwear and you don't have, so much material, obviously. And even if you don't even have the full underwear covered in silver, it's not needed if we also leverage our technology, because right at that spot, you have the silver that then transmits the quantum energy. And it's sort of like a bubble that you can think of that's then around the ovaries and transforms these waveform patterns so that there's no measurable negative effect of EMF anymore that you could measure. And, we've actually tested that with our technology. And I mean, by now, in almost any situation, even in electric cars, where the exposure is among the highest it can be. And yeah, it works extremely well. And we can say it literally neutralizes 100% of all the visible negative effects that EMF have on the body.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And that makes sense that you would need to bring in some sort of secondary technology or shielding mechanism, which is something that I started looking into in terms of, I think I was looking into like weaving crystals into the fabric somehow for similar idea of energy and changing the energy around it. But then I just felt like I was way out of my scope and I didn't even know how to do that. And so it just felt like too much, but that makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad that you're looking at like a second way of really protecting the ovaries, not just through the fabric.
Yep. Well, it's interesting for me, actually, personally, it's the toughest challenge is actually the design.
Yep.
That's probably a challenge that you didn't have, but it's, there's so many different opinions on design. And then you have also restrictions if you want to use some silver fabric. So it's not such an easy task, and especially not for a man, because I can only, take on the ideas and then evaluate and see what makes sense. So we'll see, and I may call you up at some point. And
yeah, I actually have my designs. I worked with a designer for them, and we kind of went through the same thing of, what a lot of women like to wear potentially might be more like seamless and not really bulky and not really thick. And then if you look at silver fabric, a lot of the time it's really thick. So it's like you have the roadblock of the thickness of the fabric, but then also how big the underwear is. And I think we came up with more of like a high-waisted design, and there's like a cheeky version, but then there was also like a full coverage one. But maybe we can work together and I can send you my designs or something like that in the future.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you touched upon EV cars, and I want to kind of get into this because I was thinking about this over the holidays. I see them everywhere. I'm in Canada, and even in the States, when I was in California recently, they were everywhere. And everyone kind of seems to be so excited about them, but I'm very hesitant, obviously, because of the EMF. What do you know about this, and how can your products potentially help us if maybe we still decide to get one? January is here. Can you believe it? How are you doing with your New Year's goals and resolutions? Mine are pretty easy: to focus on my well-being. And we all know that the foundation of well-being is a good night's sleep. So if I could do just one thing to improve my sleep and overall well-being, it is taking the number one mineral for that, which also helps me personally on so many levels, I can't even fully describe it. Yes, I'm talking about magnesium. Actually, I'm talking about that magnesium breakthrough from Bioptimizers. This product has 7 different types of magnesium in it, which is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. Pretty much every function in your body gets upgraded when you take magnesium, from the quality of your sleep to your brain function to your mood, metabolism, stress levels, everything. And let's face it, even if your 2024 resolution is not to focus on your health, as it is mine, how are you really going to be able to achieve your goals if you're not sleeping well and if you're stressed out? You honestly need magnesium. So get the Bioptimizers full spectrum magnesium. It is my favorite. I take one every single day. And you can go to my website with it, which is bioptimizers.com/biohackingbritney, and use my discount code biohackingbritney to get the biggest discount possible, which I'm super excited for you. So that's bioptimizers.com/biohackingbritney. And my code is biohackingbritney as well. And that will get you a big discount off of magnesium and all of their other products as well. So enjoy that. And I hope your New Year's resolutions and goals are going well.
Yeah, I know quite a bit about that. I don't know if your listeners know, but I used to be vice president at T-Mobile International, responsible for 14 countries, and also T-Mobile US. And I'm quite aware of, the electromagnetic fields and the different negative impacts these frequencies have. But also I'm very much aware of the benefits, right? So I'm not just in the camp of, it's all bad, let's tear down all 5G towers. I'm really not in that camp. I'm all about solutions so we can live well with it. And so the electric cars, they come from two sides basically, because they have this huge battery in there. And as the cars become more powerful, actually the EMF exposure gets worse, right? That's the first thing to understand. It's literally from the battery. Then you have actually sort of 3 sides, you could say, because it's the battery. Then you have a lot of electronics in the car, which you actually also have in a gas car, right? And in gas cars, it's also increasingly dangerous. It's just not even a comparison though to an electric car, because there you have also this battery. Then the way the car is set up, when you use your phone inside the car, then you amplify the exposure. And then if you have passengers that are also using their phones, you amplify that. And, it just is what it is. And it's just a fact, right? If Elon Musk says somewhere, well, there's no issue with that, then he's either lying or he's stupid. So I'm calling him out, and because it's not true. Right? It's definitely an issue, but the good thing is there are solutions. So what we did, because people were coming to us and said, well, so what about electric cars? So we actually had the BESA Institute in Austria run specific studies with that. So they tested people before they started driving in an electric car, and then they tested them while they were driving, after they drove for like an hour. Then they tested in a situation where they were on the phone while they were driving, and they had a passenger that was also on the phone. So to basically mimic higher exposure, they tested when the car was charged, which is actually, that is the worst time to be in an electric car while it is being charged. And it was found that our technology literally neutralized 100% of the very, very negative effects that the EMF exposure in an electric car had on the organs, on all different organs. Very fast deregulation is what you could literally measure. And it was all regulated very, very quickly within minutes. So that's what we can say about that. It is definitely not such a good idea to drive an electric car if you don't protect yourself well, because it can literally cause chronic migraines and lots of other issues because you're constantly bombarded with stress. And that's just something we're still not very much aware of, and we should be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Which product would you buy to like put in your car if you do have an EV car?
Well, so there's different options that we offer. You know, the blocks definitely have the strongest protection, and we developed a so-called car and travel block, or travel and car block, I should say. That's a little smaller, so it's you can even put it in a larger purse, in a backpack easily, and all of that, and always have it with you, and you put it in your car. Right? If you have that there, you have literally no issues that you could measure. The so-called Heal capsule, which is sort of the all-rounder product, way more affordable than a block, is one that definitely supports the wearer, but it doesn't support any of your passengers. And as the exposure gets super, super high, you know, that remains to be seen. You know, it definitely helps, but it's not as protective as the block, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. What would you recommend people use if they're traveling on planes? Would it be the same capsule that has the beads in it with the necklace, or would you recommend something maybe a bit more intense because planes have such high radiation?
Yeah, it's a good point. On planes, it's really rough, and especially for all the ones for the pilots and the stewardess that travel all the time, they need to protect themselves. I think it's the same thing. Plus, we have this new service called Quantum Upgrade, which works over distance via quantum entanglement, and that is another amazing option. And that was also tested by the Besa Institute, and it works in 100% of the cases and neutralizes all of the EMFs. And you can actually have that for your car specifically. You couldn't have that for the airplane, but you could have it for yourself, and then you're protected. And airplane is an interesting topic because there's a new private airline. It's quite a large startup that has a fleet of, I think, 120 planes, more or less. And they are actually starting to equip all of their planes with our technology. So that's the first airline that is going to use our technology because they want their passengers to have, wellness travel and not draining travel.
Wow, that's very remarkable. Do you know the name of that airline?
I will have to get it to you, and I will send it to you. So I literally was texting earlier with the CEO of the company, and I should know, but I don't have it handy right now.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I'm super interested in that. And it's great to hear that your technology is just reaching so many new people in such a substantial way that people are considering putting it into a line of airplanes. Like that's just wild. Your company in general has really come a long way since we last spoke. And I know I was reading that you have a 95% increase in studies in the last, I think, probably couple of years or so since we spoke. So can you kind of highlight some of the most interesting things that you have found in those studies in the last couple of years in terms of how quantum healing is really making a difference for people?
Yep. Well, yeah. So a lot happened over time because we started off with a lot of before and after testing, and we had doctors' offices, test our products and report the results. And those were all great. And those, I think, a lot of those we shared on the last podcast. But since then, we moved really into placebo-controlled studies because we learned along the way that, before and after testing is great. But if you really want to show that there's no placebo effect and that it works all the time, these need to be placebo controlled. So, for example, if you use physical devices, sham controlled, randomized, double blind, single blind, that's what we're talking about. And indeed, in regards to the blood, I think there have been 7 or 8 of such studies by now that prove actually in 100% of the cases that this works. and that it works actually very significantly by even, reversing stage 1 and stage 2 of blood clotting, to activate the motility and activity of the white blood cells, to oxygenate the blood, to reduce parasitic load in the blood, and all of that in already minutes. So we're not talking, 6 months of treatment. That's also great. That's actually better. But you can measure that already after 10 minutes of application or usage, which is quite phenomenal. And it's been done by various different institutes. Then the Emoto Institute, which you probably know from Japan, ran a study with 2 of our products and found that they work better and faster than anything they've ever seen and tested before. And since now 20 months, they've been reselling our products in Japan, which they've never done with any other product line before. And so that's quite exciting. But then we had a study with autistic children, 42 autistic children, and there was a significant improvement in the so-called ADDIC score. That's basically what measures, where on the spectrum these kids are. And it was remarkable. So our technology was able within several months to take down the ADDIC score of all those kids on average by 20 basis points. So that is very, very, very much and very, very significant. But I think the most exciting, most recent studies were done by a professor at the University of Tulsa in the US, who's an expert in everything regarding wound healing, ATP production, everything that has to do with the human cell and how the human cell works and what can improve it or what can make it worse, right? And so he's been doing that since decades. And so he ran 3 studies in regards to ATP production. So ATP production, for the ones that don't know, that's basically the energy production of the human cells. It's our currency, right? So if we don't drink water, we're dead after, some time. But if we don't have ATP production, we're pretty much dead instantly. Okay. So it doesn't take more than a few seconds. And so that's how important it is. And you need especially good ATP production if you have a mental exercise like a chess game, or you want to learn something or perform in a test, or if you want to be an athlete and you have a competition, something like that. So it was shown that with our technology, ATP production increased by 20 to 29%. And the professor ran the study 3 times because he's quite mainstream, right? So he didn't think this could work. So then it worked the first time. It was randomized and double blind with a huge sample size. We're talking millions of cells. So it was absolutely statistically significant. But then he said, okay, so there's still one part of me that doesn't believe it. So but I see it's working, but I have to do it one more time. So he did it one more time. Then, same thing happened. Nothing happened in the control cells, and you had this huge increase in ATP production in all the treated cells. And then he said, okay, and I'm going to run it a 3rd time just to cover my butt, because if I'm going to publish this, obviously if you publish something like that, and, mainstream is going to just cry and say, well, how's this possible? So he did it a 3rd time. And then again, it all happened like this. And so it's absolutely bulletproof. And it's quite significant if you think about it, what energy can do. And, I'm not saying you should stop your exercise, you should stop your favorite supplements that help you. Of course, those are all great. But there's an additional layer that, biohackers and others really, did not really look at in the past. And that's, what about our energy level, right? And if we can improve that has quite a significant impact on all of our life. So, and that same professor, and then I'm going to stop talking and let you speak again. He also ran wound healing studies, again, with actual human cells. And so what happens is they scratch the cells with a laser, all in the same way. And then you have a control group again, and you have a group that gets treated, and it's double blind. So the professor has no clue. There's another person that knows, which is not us. We also have no clue. We just basically get the task okay, it needs to be charged. This needs to be charged, and we don't know anything else. So it was shown an 85 to 100% acceleration in wound healing of these cells, which also is quite remarkable. So that by itself is a medical breakthrough. We don't want to be a medical device company. We really shy away from that. We don't really want to be in that field, but it really is widest support for your overall wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really impressive. And what a span of different research studies in different fields that you're looking at, like in terms of helping with different things. I'm really curious about the latest research, if there is any, on women's health specifically. So a lot of my listeners are women, and a lot of my podcast episodes are kind of geared towards women's health, women's biohacking. And I talk frequently about, fertility and pregnancy and even menopause. And I'm curious how energy and healing energy can play into those times of our lives, and if you have any kind of recommendations.
Yeah, so we don't have any specific studies with women at this point. We do have all these generic studies that include men as well as women, and it works the same way for both. And you can certainly argue, if your ATP production increases, if your cell recovery is way faster, if your blood improves significantly within minutes, it literally has an overall benefit on everything, including longevity. And I can point, though, to a study that is currently ongoing in regards to men's health, because we talked about the underwear, right? And while it's for men, I think we will do the same thing with women in the near future, because it's going to be important if we launch that product. And so it's been found, at least in a pilot study, when we have to do a larger sample size, I must say that it increased sperm quality and quantity. And that is quite significant, because it shows the protective effect and the beneficial effect. And from my perspective, I'm actually expecting similar positive things for women once such an underwear can be, successfully developed through the finish line.
Yeah, for sure. It would be interesting to see, I guess, like what biomarkers you test for that. I guess like whether it's like AMH levels, or I guess, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you would test in order to like see how it's kind of like optimizing women. Cause you can't really test eggs. Like AMH is like kind of the closest things that we have in terms of looking at how many we have in general.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'm no expert in that, so we always rely on the experts in regards to that. So once we have that, we will give it to the labs, or there will probably be some testing out there. But yeah, so we'll have to see what can be tested that at least gives a good read on that.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone's listening and they're thinking, okay, I really want to optimize my home, and maybe they work from home, maybe they have kids, and this energy and healing energy is something that they're new to, where can they start in terms of looking at it from a house perspective? Like, what type of products, what rooms do you think are potentially the most, I don't want to say dangerous, but let's just say not optimized? And what do you really recommend for the average home?
Yeah, so I mean, if you can afford it, then definitely one of our blocks. So for at home, I recommend either the Grand Block or the so-called Infinity Block. And there, at that point, it doesn't matter which room has the biggest issues, because these cover not only the whole home, but go way beyond that, because they have such a large radius. And then you have all these different applications, because you can start charging your water, you can charge your foods, which is another actually very, very interesting topic, keyword food sensitivities. And so that's definitely what I recommend, because it really covers your whole home. It covers all of the people that live in the home, including your pets, even your plants benefit from it. So that's the best tool. And if you just want to get started small and just, see how these things do and how you react to it personally, how you like it, then, the so-called heal capsule, I think is a great starter. That's just for you. That's not really for the home, but it's something for you to feel and to check out until you see, you want more, or you can really see the difference. And then, you can certainly learn more about the topic. By now we have a private Telegram group, which is just open for people that are very interested in it and customers. You can't even find it on Telegram. That's, it's private, but you can reach it through our website. There's a Telegram link, and it's over 6,500 members by now that are all, talking about the products, and they're answering questions. And, they can tell you a lot about it, and then you don't have to hear from me. So that may be another interesting thing to do.
Let's talk about getting the remarkable benefits of fasting without the daunting commitment of long-term fasting. As a dedicated professional, always on the lookout for ways to enhance my health and well-being, I've explored intermittent fasting extensively. And if you're a listener of the podcast, you know this. However, I've often found myself pushing the boundaries and experiencing adverse effects such as sleep issues and energy slumps, and also hormonal issues. While intermittent fasting did offer some positive outcomes initially, like many of us, I struggled to incorporate it long term without it really disrupting my daily life. However, my life has recently taken a turn for the better, all thanks to Mimeo. This is the world's first biomimetic supplement. This incredible innovation is the accumulation of years of rigorous clinical research, meticulously designed to replicate the effects of a 36-hour fast at the cellular level, which is wild. With Mimeo, I can now experience the holistic benefits of fasting without enduring prolonged periods of hunger and deprivation. Are you intrigued about the benefits? Let's get into it. First and foremost, Mimeo activates your cells' innate regenerative capabilities, much like fasting itself. This translates to optimized metabolism and better control over hunger, which a lot of us really value if we're trying to watch our weight. Secondly, it significantly boosts energy levels and accelerates recovery, making it an absolute game changer for active individuals like myself. Thirdly, Mimeo elevates mood and sharpens mental clarity, enabling us to be at our absolute best every single day. I definitely notice this, especially when I take it right before work in the mornings. The icing on the cake is that Mimeo's formulation is exclusively derived from molecules naturally produced by our own body. This means it is very, very safe because it is in perfect harmony with our biological system, delivering optimal effectiveness. Still not convinced? Mimeo offers a 100% happiness guarantee. That's right. There's absolutely nothing to lose. So for all of my fantastic listeners out there, if you want to give Mimeo a try and add it to your supplement stack, I really suggest you do so. And you can do that by using my discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off for the first 3 months of your subscription, which is awesome. Join me along with countless others who are on the path to revolutionizing their health with Mimeo. Bid farewell to the challenges of long-term fasting and usher in a healthier, happier version of yourself, which we always love. Thank you for listening. And always remember, when it comes to optimizing your health, Mimeo holds the key. Visit their website, linked in my show notes and on my website as well, and embark on your journey towards a better you now. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I have the Infinity Bloc. I'm looking at your website now. And so I have the Infinity Bloc in my office, and I have one in my room as well. And then I have the healing capsules, and I have the one that's designed for women. It says, I'm looking at it right now. It says Women's Booster. And that kind of just sits on my desk. But I'm curious what the radius is for these Infinity Blocs, because I'm in an apartment and we're in about 1,200 square feet, and we have two, and they're each on the opposite ends. Is that okay? Or is that like almost like too much?
No, it's definitely not too much. You can definitely do that. It literally probably, it covers the whole apartment building. I'm guessing that right now, not knowing how big that building is, but that actually covers a hotel, like a normal size hotel. But yeah, no, you're totally fine doing that. By the way, please send me your address after this, because we just upgraded and boosted our Infinity Bloc. So they have some new features. They're now way more powerful, and they have specific other features that are even more harmonious with the human cells and all of that. And we created this so-called Infinity Bloc booster capsule, which you place inside your existing Infinity Bloc for 20 minutes. And then it uploads all of these new features onto that. So we'll be happy to send you one so that you place this capsule into one of your Infinity Blocs for 20 minutes, after that in the other one, and then then good luck.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's going to be great. Love it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm super open to that. So you put this thing in the block, and then it like uploads this energy. And how long does it stay like that? Like even the Infinity Bloc in itself, like, is it kind of good for life? Do I ever have to do anything to it?
Well, it's indeed good for life. So, what I usually don't tell people, but it's the way it is. It actually increases its power over time as you use it. So if you don't ever use it, it stays the same. But if you use it, then it actually slightly increases in its power over time. And so you really don't need to do anything with that. The only thing that changes really is your own consciousness level, your own vibration, as well as the vibration that we see on Earth and in general places. And we see EMFs change, and all that always changes. So you may want to upgrade your Infinity Bloc over time. I mean, since you have two, you can do that. And then, with these features like this capsule that I just mentioned, we always try to stay ahead of the game and give people options to further increase these levels, as things change.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that people feel a difference? Like, what have some of like the testimonials been, I guess, of someone who's like, okay, I want this Infinity Bloc in my house. I have a family, this is important to me. What are people kind of saying about it once they have had it for a couple of months?
Well, usually they love it, and they talk about a much more harmonious energy at home. They talk about not being stressed anymore. They tell me and tell us publicly they can cope with problems and issues much better. Also, when they have difficult times in their lives, they don't get dragged down as much anymore. They can meditate way deeper. They can access much more of their inner knowing and inner power. Those are all the things that are very hard to measure, actually, but we hear that very frequently. And then, of course, you have the hard evidence, right? That where we come with studies, and then people, they would report, well, I have had knee pain since 6 years, and I put my knee into the Grand Block for half an hour, and then the pain was gone. You hear things like that. Now, that doesn't mean that every knee pain is gone in half an hour. Please don't think that, because it's not every knee pain is the same, and it works differently than a chemical substance, right? It doesn't always work that way. It's other issues, but issues can be solved quite quickly. And that's what we hear a lot too. We hear, people with autistic kids, they say, well, the kid now can communicate way better. It's much more in the here and now. It's just, I have more energy. That's what people say, or that their sleep gets better, which, sometimes maybe for the first week, because the energy is so new. If someone isn't used to a lot of quantum energy, maybe that's very stimulative and you actually don't need as much sleep. But then usually after a week or so, you get really used to it, and you have more energy throughout the day, and you have a deeper sleep at night. And that's also what people report.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of what I figured what people would say, because it's kind of like been my own experience as well. I haven't played around with putting any body parts into my Infinity Bloc. Could I do that with that one? Or is it only the other one that you mentioned that would be recommended for that type of healing?
You can absolutely do it with this one. And, once you have that, booster capsule there, the specific one, and have done that, then, do it again and feel the difference. It's going to be way more powerful even.
Interesting. Okay. So for your personal life, do you just charge everything that you eat and all your supplements every single time, like in your block, or are you kind of a bit more casual about it now?
It actually depends. Usually we charge a whole lot. We charge our foods. I love chocolate, for example. And, there has been a pilot study by a clinic in Germany that found a 65 to 95% reduction in stress response of the human body if you put truffles or chocolate, any type of sugary items into the block for 4 minutes. And so I tend to do that. And with supplements, I also charge them. As a matter of fact, I just got some how do you say that? Colloidal gold. Say that in English. And so that actually loses its power relatively quickly in the bottle. And it came like that too. Then I put it in the block just for 15 seconds and it's now at full power. So that's quite interesting. And I do that quite a bit. We have a large Grand block in our kitchen. So it's part of our kitchen line where we use it quite a bit. So you can put a real salad bowl in it and things like that. So we do use it frequently, but we're not using it all the time either. So I don't feel dependent on it. It's just a very nice tool to use.
Nice. I love that. So if I have one of these EMF blankets, which I usually sit with at my desk, but I have an Infinity Bloc in my office, do I really even need the EMF blocking blanket? Or is it just does it help? Or is there kind of just no point now?
There's not really a point. There's only a point for some people, and that's actually really a minority. Those people that are extremely sensitive to EMF, but they are extremely sensitive to any amount of energy that's actually there. And so with the blocks, you don't eliminate energy, you just have harmonious and positive energy. So if you're extremely sensitive and you notice that at nights you just can't sleep that well, maybe you need some additional protection, or in an airplane you need maybe your blanket. But if you're quite a normal person, then you don't need an EMF blocking blanket if you have an Infinity Bloc.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good to know. Just because I was thinking about the same issues that we spoke about earlier of, you're wearing a blanket over your lap, but EMF isn't just one direction. It kind of comes from everywhere. So how much is it really doing? But if you use technology like your healing quantum technology, then it's a much better holistic and 360 approach.
Yep, that is correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know we talked about your female underwear, but what are other future applications that you think are coming for this year? We're starting 2024 and I'm curious kind of what's coming down the pipeline.
Yep. So some interesting things. So we constantly develop new frequencies, right, that we offer. And one of those is called the Olympic Performance Frequency. We already launched that as part of the Quantum Upgrade program. So there it's already been available since a few months. It further, helps you with mitochondrial function, ATP, and literally, if you play tennis or do yoga, whatever, anything physical, and you turn this on, it gives you a really, really noticeable boost. And so we haven't launched that though as a physical product. So probably we're going to launch that as a frequency card. And I've been thinking about maybe a sports application, I don't know how that could look like, but something that, someone that is a runner, for example, could wear that in an easy way. So we're thinking about that. And then deuterium depleted water is a very interesting topic. So with our water bottles and our blocks, you can structure water and make an absolutely amazing water, but it's not deuterium depleted. And so we've looked into that, and to make deuterium depleted water is actually quite difficult and requires I mean, a huge amount of strong technology that's very, very expensive. And that is why deuterium depleted water is so expensive. Like you can try to get some on Amazon. It's ridiculous, how expensive it is, but it's really, really good. So we already in the first test found a way to actually reproduce that with our technology. But the end goal is to actually make a product that someone could make deuterium depleted water at home. So think of a block and you put your water in there, and not only does it get structured, but it also gets deuterium depleted, right? And that would be the ultimate water product, to be honest. So I don't know if we will be able to fully develop it that way, but it's at least something we're working on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like I don't fully understand what deuterium depleted water means. Can you kind of explain that a bit further?
Yeah, so and I'm also no expert in that. So I encourage everyone to actually research this a little bit. So this is the water that all true healers and people that really care about your health would tell anyone that has cancer, for example, start drinking deuterium depleted water because it is so good for your health. The manufacturers of that deuterium depleted water are not allowed to talk about that aspect. So they all talk about longevity, but it is actually something, if there's a lot of deuterium in it, it's just way more difficult for the body to process it. And we looked at it energetically, actually, when we drank deuterium depleted water, and it is so clean and so pure, and it can detoxify your body in a completely different way. Now it's really a different level, and it's really good water. I mean, and there may also be different deuterium depleted waters out there, but we use the ones from that's supposedly the best in the world. That's, I think, it's done in Eastern Europe. I don't know if it's the Czech Republic or so on, but they also sell it in the US for sure. You can get it on Amazon. It has a weird name with a Q. I can't remember exactly, but it's very expensive, but it's great.
Yeah, that's helpful. I'm going to look into that after this because I know about structured water and I use a device called NLMA. I don't know if you know what that is, but essentially it's like a wand and I have it in my water filter. I actually just leave it in there. So it just structures the water every time I fill my water filter. And I find water is a very complicated topic that I kind of understand on how to have the best, healthiest water. But then I hear something like this and then I'm like, oh, wait, what do I really even know? Because it has to be like restructured, filtered. Where does it come from? And there's all of these questions every single time. And then what is it bottled in? Is it in glass? Is it in water? And all of these different things. So if you can kind of create a product that kind of does everything in one, that would be very exciting.
Yes, and what you just said is actually, first of all, it's so true, and I love that you said that. And it's actually, I find it true like in every part of life, right? Because it doesn't really stop, right? There's always a point where you're like, oh, I really didn't know that. And then you're evaluating and seeing new things. But what you mentioned with the plastic or glass, right? That just sparked this because that's also what we found. Usually, if you have bottled water, micro particles of the plastic get into the water, right? So the bottled water with plastic bottles isn't really healthy. Now, this deuterium depleted water that I've been talking about, that comes also in plastic bottles. Now, it's good plastic bottles, but still, usually it would take the plastic particles out, but it doesn't do that. And it doesn't do that apparently because it is deuterium depleted. So it is very pure and apparently seeks to stay pure. So it's a quite interesting one. And I actually think that no one knows this actually, because we have this guy on our team, Roman Hafner, they call him the Wunderkind in Europe. He can see frequencies on such a granular level like no one else. It's sort of like you call it a mutation or something, but he is extremely gifted. He is so gifted. And so he can literally see these things. And that was one of the observations, which I found quite fascinating.
Wow. That is so fascinating because I just think about all of the applications for something like that. If we can optimize water and deplete this deuterium and also structure it and do all of the things, it's like, yes, let's drink that water and like add a house filter or something like that. But then I also think about, having a hot tub or like in my sauna, like a wet sauna, and having the water that goes through that gets converted into steam, like using that type of level of water in a sauna and how healing that would be. I just want it for all of my different biohacks and devices because, that's kind of what biohacking is, right? You kind of start somewhere and then you stack and you stack and you stack, because why not optimize as much as we can, I guess.
Yep, absolutely.
That's so exciting. I'm so excited to dive into that. I really want everyone to be able to connect with you very easily. And I know you mentioned your chat group. I'm forgetting the name of it. Wow. But
Telegram group.
Yes, Telegram. Yes, I have Telegram and I forget to use it, but I will link that in the chat. I know it's on your website. But if people want to try your products or connect with you on social media, how can they do that?
Well, just go to leelaq.com. That's LEELAQ.com. Just take a look there. And then again, if you have any questions, if you want to learn more about the topic, feel free to join the Telegram group. You find these social media icons somewhere on the website, and one of them is a Telegram icon, and you just click on that and it takes you right to that group. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Okay. And I will link to the products. I'll link to the ones that I have specifically as well, if people want to see that. I think I have an affiliate link with you. I'll have to double check and make sure that that's all updated and everything like that. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a very interesting and enlightening episode, and I know everyone's going to get a lot out of it.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active. My handle is @biohackingbrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.